The dog lived from hand to mouth on a chain for 5 years and responded only to uncensored words. According to neighbors, this puppy was brought into the house when he was very young, and he was immediately put on a chain, hoping to make him a good guard. The puppy was very tiny, he missed his mother and therefore constantly whined. He still could not understand that now he had to fight for every piece of bread and minute of attention. The meter-long chain put pressure on the baby, but it was possible to free himself from it only by escaping. The puppy succeeded in this several times, but each time he escaped he was in fear, knowing that when he returned he would be met with a scream, and not only with him. In a rotten booth, open to all winds, and chained to a heavy chain, the dog lived for 5 years. He regularly guarded the house, but for this he received only scraps, often already rotten and infested with flies. When such a life completely deprived him of his strength, he managed to free himself from the collar and ran away. People who saw him on the streets were convinced that the dog was homeless, because no owner would allow his animal to be so thin and its fur covered in tangles. Life on the street was difficult, but here the dog could run around to his heart's content, beg people for food, and, if lucky, find a bone in the trash heap. The only hard thing was to hide from other stray dogs, who immediately tried to take away his prey. In winter, the dog ran away once again, but this time he decided not to return. His master's house was a terrible prison, and they themselves were nothing more than cruel taskmasters. The dog spent a week on the streets of the city. He had to sleep in the snow, so his tangles almost immediately became covered with icicles. When the girl noticed the dog, he looked terrible. The girl took pity on the dog and began to feed it. After a while, the dog began to trust the girl. He always gave her his paw as a sign of gratitude. In the yard where the dog now lived, not everyone appreciated the girl's kindness. The dog was chased away, teased, offended. The girl was worried that sooner or later Grand would suffer from such treatment, so she asked me for help. I took the dog right away. After washing and brushing, it turned out that Grand was a retriever mix. For now, he lives in a pet hotel, the conditions in which are much better than on the street and even in his previous home. Here he is not forced to work for his food, he is allowed to walk, and he is taken care of.